Bobby, I don't even have to ask you where Messiah is right now. So that's good. We just talked to Kyle. Was there even a contract to offer him at the start of free agency, or were you aware that this was the direction that things were probably going? Without,
Yeah, no, it's a fair question. I think, you probably have to go back to, the second half of our season. And I think you kind of, you could see the direction that the team was going. And then obviously, jumping up in the draft and getting the fourth pick, I think, philosophically, I think going young became kind of a more desirable path. And so, I wouldn't even, kind of connected with Kyle in that sense. I just think that philosophically, that's where we were going as an organization. And we thought that was the best, best path for us next 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
The decision to work on a sign and trade with him instead of going under the cap and going into free agency with cap space, how difficult was that? And what were you considering when you ultimately made the decision you did?
Yeah, that's the calculus, right? So you're looking at, how much cap space we could have opened up, and then the types of players we could have gotten. And so I think, as most of us saw, the price tags were pretty high on a lot of those free agents. And so I think going into it, we had targeted a few of them that we'd potentially go after. But once, I guess, once the clock struck 6:01 and we saw some of the numbers, I think it made more sense to use the flexibility that we created, not necessarily in cap space, but just, financially to be able to take on those contracts. And then Precious, Precious is a huge part of this deal for us. We really liked him last year in the draft. So I think that was for us a huge get in the sense of a young player that we like and that fits. And at the same time, we got, Goran, he's a legend. And I think from that perspective, he still plays at a high level. He provides a lot of leadership and veteran kind of steadiness on a team. So those are both players that we like.
Appreciate it, Bobby. Thank you.
Next question goes to Doug Smith from the Toronto Star.
Bobby, how are you, sir? Good to see you again. Speaking of Goran, obviously he would prefer to be in Dallas, and Dallas has some interest in him, and it's all been out there. How do you see him fitting in, and will he ever play for the Raptors?
Yeah, no, we entertained it, and we were, upfront with Goran and his representative. So I think it's very, transparent. But no, we liked him from the start. Obviously, if we got an offer that was too good to refuse, we'd listen. But ultimately, we want Goran here. I think he's happy to be here. Obviously he's able to carve out a really nice career for himself. But talking to Messiah, talking to everyone here, we've watched him for a ton, and I know a lot of people here have seen him kill us. So I think as a basketball player, and as a vet, he provides a lot of value for us.
The decision to move on from Kyle obviously was, not yours alone. He was involved in it. How hard was it?
It's probably for all of us, right? Emotionally, it's tough, right? It's a kid that, grew up here and even before, predated myself. And I think he was, in many ways, the last player that, from the roster when we came in 2013. So I think emotionally, obviously, there's a ton of good feelings and affection and all of those things, right? And at one point, we'll probably look back and have more perspective on it. But I think we knew that this was the better direction for the team, and ultimately probably the better direction for him. And I think he gets to go to a place that I think he's always, at least been intrigued by, and get to play with some guys that I know he's talked about with over the years.
Great. Thanks very much, Bobby. Appreciate it.
Next question goes to Josh Lewenberg from TSN.
Hey, Bobby. Thanks for doing this. I know the roster is starting to come together here, but still relatively early in the summer. How much more work do you think there is to do in terms of building around the guys that you've got now?
I think most of it's come out. If you had any specific ones, but I think, it's pretty clear. We're going to build around Fred, OG, Pascal. We always have Chris coming back and expect him to have another jump. I don't know what's actually officially out there, but our two guard, right? I think it's been kind of reported, so we'll bring him back. And then, there's interesting pieces. I think with Malachi, obviously first round pick, Scotty first round pick. I think if everyone kind of thinks back to 2013 and 14, we have a really good core, young core that we think has some upside, and now it's on us to kind of fit pieces around it. Make the opportunistic trades, spend our money wisely, but we think we have the structure of a team that can be competitive.
I just asked Kyle about Fred. In a lot of ways, Fred just sort of seems like that natural successor to Kyle in terms of the position, obviously on the court, but then also the leadership off of it. And he's had the chance to groom under him for all these years now. How confident are you that he's ready to sort of take on that elevated responsibility just in terms of his role on and off the court this year?
Extremely confident, and it goes along with OG and Pascal, but I think we've, as you probably saw, the transition has been happening, right? And those conversations have been ongoing probably for the past, 2 years, definitely this year. So I think that's been helpful for us. Is he's accepted it, he's taken on the challenge, and he's risen to the occasion in almost every circumstance.
Great, thanks, Bobby.
Next question goes to Michael Grange from Sportsnet.
Hey, Bobby. If just going back to Kyle a little bit, when you look at the opportunities that were around the trade deadline and then how things played out at this time of year, any regrets, any do-overs? Did this turn out to be the best path for your team in terms of what you could return for Kyle? And just your thoughts in that direction.
Yeah, I think if I don't know if we ever remember correctly, but I think after the deadline, we really did want to give that group a shot, right? And I think they wanted it. And with COVID and a couple of different breaks, it really didn't go that way. So I think from a kind of pure heart standpoint, that's what we wanted to do. And the breaks of the second half didn't quite go where we wanted to, and so then we had to react to that. So I don't know if it's this linear decision making where this happened and then this happened. I think what we did is we kind of looked at what was presented in front of us and the different paths for the team and thought this was obviously the best one.
And how would you assess what you have right now? Like, does it look like a team that has a ceiling, or do you think this is going to be a kind of a slow building group and you'll have to add to it as you go along?
Yeah, I think the answer is probably both, right? We think we have a pretty good foundation in place. Players that have been part of the organization for a while, players that are under contract, for a few number of years. So there's not a ton of immediate pressure or immediate decision making. And then we're excited with the young guys. And I think having 3 picks in the draft, 3 picks in this year's draft, and having some of the other younger players come off the bench, we haven't fully restocked the cover, but I think that's the direction that we're heading in.
Appreciate it. Have a good night, Bobby.
Next question goes to Ryan Wallstatt from the Toronto Sun.
Hey, Bobby. You mentioned that you think Goran will be happy to be with Toronto. Have you actually talked to him about it, and the Precious as well? Have you talked to them? And if so, what have they said?
Yeah, we were just able to do it, once the trade became official. So both extremely excited. So, like I said, we were, very transparent with Goran. I think Precious known that we were interested in last year in the draft. We interviewed him extensively. We tried to get him in the draft. Obviously, he went before us. But no, I think, Goran's coming from a different point of view, which is veteran, established, and Precious is, getting a different start, albeit in his second year with the new organization.
And what is it about Precious that you liked? And also, you brought Kem back as well. How do you see that pairing kind of going?
Yeah, so bringing Kem back, obviously, I think people saw how well he fit with the group, and not just on the offensive end and the defensive end, but I think he was able to expand his game a bit and show some more, I think, of what he felt he could always do. So that was obviously good, and to continue that momentum. And Precious as well. I think everyone can kind of see the front court. The types of players that slot in there. I don't know if there's going to be a specific position, but I think we'll have some interesting lineups, especially on the defensive end. For Coach Nurse, a lot of length, a lot of versatility, a lot of athleticism, and once they kind of learn how to play together, I think that'll be one of our strengths.
Thanks.
Next question goes to Stephen Lung from Sportsnet.
Hey, Bobby, thanks for doing this. You mentioned Precious and like this kind of fun core that's building. How would you project them? I guess looking offensively, like we can have a pretty good idea what they may look defensively, but what about the offensive side of the ball?
Yeah, I think obviously it starts with the three guys, obviously Fred and OG and Pascal, right? I think those three have been part of the system offensively, know what we're trying to run. Obviously Chris is coming as well. So honestly, it's in many ways, it's an open competition for all of those players to really compete against each other. And listen, they're not all going to make it, right? They're not all going to hit, and they're not all going to stay around here forever. But I think creating that culture of competitiveness and winning, combined with what we currently have, is what's really exciting.
And it was reported that Sam Decker is joining your team. I'm not sure if you're able to confirm that, but if you are, how would you see him fitting with the team?
Yeah, we're in talks with them. Nothing official, but I think obviously Sam came out as a talented kid, and went overseas, and I think it really gave him a new perspective. And I think he understands how fleeting the moment is in the NBA, and so I think he's ready to take full advantage of an opportunity now. And
given kind of past comments he's made, do you think that would vibe well with I guess the culture that you guys have put forth here over the years?
Yeah, obviously we discussed it internally, and we discussed it with Sam and his agent. I think we're all willing to kind of take him at face value, and if obviously issues come up, we'll address them. But to kind of write somebody off, I think, without having an experience with the person, I think that also goes to what we want to stand for here.
Thank you.
And final question for you, Bobby, goes to Aaron Rose from SI.com.
Hey, Bobby. Wanted to ask a follow-up to an earlier comment you made about how the fourth pick sort of changed things for you guys. How much did that set you on this direction? Maybe if you were at 7 or moved down, would you have maybe more strongly considered bringing back some of the older guys or Kyle? And how much did this force you to do a younger group thing?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think obviously we love Scotty. We thought, we think he has a chance to really, alter the direction of the franchise. But I'll say, even up until draft night, there's 6 p.m. we're considering other options as well as far as trading that pick. So I think, you never really want to set the path, but definitely, jumping up and even being in the lottery, I think for us, once we've dug in and really studied it, is, it's one of the few opportunities that from a team building or a roster building standpoint, to really add talent. And I think being outside of the lottery for so many years, obviously we were able to dig and find a lot of players. But just the level of player that we had in for workouts, we all kind of wow, this is what a lottery pick looks like, and this is the talent. So I think that became more apparent as we dug in on the lottery opportunities.
And you mentioned wanting to go younger. Is that something you'd like to sort of push even further and add some more draft capital or younger guys? Or are you sort of happy with this core and taking it forward, including some 27-year-olds on the roster with the group you have now?
Yeah, I don't mean necessarily young in the sense you have to get 19 and 20-year-olds, right? I think it's a group that can grow with with the core. And so they're pretty good. They've accomplished a lot. They've won at the highest level. So yeah, maybe young is the wrong word, but reloading with those guys as the centerpieces.
Thank you.
Bobby, sorry, one follow-up from Ryan Wallstatt from the Toronto Sun.
Sorry, Bobby, one more. Just
No worries.
we didn't really ask you about Masai, just your thoughts on him sticking around and continuing on this journey with you.
Yeah, obviously great. I think the timing of, losing the legend Lowry, but, keeping another Raptor legend in Masai. So, I always felt like he was coming back, and you guys asked me about him, every single time I came on. And I tried to, imply that in different ways, but, he'd been a part of it. There was kind of no, let down from him. And I think as everyone knows, his passion and his emotion for it, I don't think he has a way to kind of dim it or turn it down. So we lived with it throughout the season, and we lived with it in the off season. And so I think that for us was, different than maybe some of the noise from the outside.